Hello and welcome to another edition of Game Warp. This is our featured game review for Beyond Good and Evil. My name is Elwood Jones, and as always I'm joined by my partner in crime, Miss Kim Lowe.
Hi.
First off, how are you doing up there in the Great White North, Kim?
Doing good. It's been busy for sure, as we always are.
No doubt.
That's about really all I have to say. I mean, there's like an overwhelming need to talk about the game, and there's so much stuff going on in the gaming world too. Like there's like a dry spell, and then we come up with like a ton of stuff happening. Like when this episode goes up, I believe we will have gone through like a weekend of crazy free to plays with like a ton of stuff going that came out, from Steep to Elder Scrolls Online to what was the last one? Overwatch.
We got another free weekend of Overwatch, which is great because it's still, I think, what we know, like a year into this game being released, and it's still at the same full price. So these free weekends are really great for if you're like poor broke gamers like ourselves who can't afford to play full price for our games. Obviously, more exciting though, we did have the closed beta for Steep, which yourself got to play, which I was very envious of, because this is like one of my top 5 titles at the moment, along with For Honor, that we took away from E3. So you've obviously been doing a couple of streams this week, which are available now via our YouTube channel, should I say, and you've also put your write-up on thatmoment.com, our home base.
Yeah, Steep is interesting. It's definitely a winter playground. It has its issues. I mean, when we're recording this, we haven't tried the open beta yet, so we don't know what issues they fixed from the closed beta yet. So I'm just hoping that things are going to improve. There are little tweaks they really need to work on, but overall it was a nice experience. But thoroughly, go to that moment in, and I have a pretty thorough impressions post on Steep.
Oh. Well, it's always nice to know that when the rest of the world is losing its head and falling apart, the gaming world is still doing what it's supposed to be doing. So it's looking positive as we go into, obviously, the December release schedule, and obviously with Steep being the main contender at the moment, and obviously seeing all the footage that I've seen coming out of this game, it just makes me so anxious to play it. So I'm very much looking forward to this weekend, which unfortunately is falling on the same weekend as the open Overwatch free weekend, so it's going to be a bit of a toss-up where I'm going to be spending most of my time this weekend. I might have to switch back and forth between the two, but definitely check out Kim's write-up on thatmomentin.com, as well as you can see the groovy footage that she recorded during the test plays for that. So.
There's a lot of face plants, just saying that in advance.
I love the fact you describe it as face meets rock for the wingsuit action, so. But obviously, today we're talking about our featured game, which is Beyond Good and Evil. This is a key title for Ubisoft, who've actually been giving away free copies of this game to celebrate its anniversary. This game was originally released back in 2003 and was given a hasty remake in 2011. This was also given away as a part of the Games with Gold. It was given away last month, so it's one that we sort of knew we wanted to do for a while now, and it was kind of all came together, the fact that it was being given away as a free game, which only sort of made it all the sort of more sort of key there. Everything seemed to line up for us covering this game. For those not familiar with the game, it was created by Michael Anzid, who also gave us the Rayman series, and when he came to doing this game, he really wanted to move away from doing Rayman and essentially do something a bit different. The game itself is a adventure puzzle game. It's set in the year 2435 on the mining planet of Helios, which is currently under siege from aliens known as the DomZs, who are basically going around kidnapping people to drain their life force. In the meantime, Helios is also under military dictatorship of a military group known as the Alpha Section, And in the game, you play Jade, who's a photojournalist as well as a martial artist, and along with her humanoid boar uncle, Pey-J, as well as the soldier known as Double H, she's tasked as part of this underground revolution to investigate this conspiracy that seems to be behind the DomZ invasion. When this game was originally released, Michael Anthony, as we said already, he was trying to do something a bit different. And he originally envisioned a game similar to Ico, which was more artistically ambitious than the game that we eventually got, as changes throughout the development process saw it changed to become more commercially appealing. At the same time, this was a game that originally had planned for long periods of exploration, which, after he played Legend of Zelda: The Wind Walker, was again also cut, and this kind of served to demoralize the team, but gave us a game that was very critically praised when it was released, even though it was commercially registered a flop, and since its release has gone on to generate something of a following. But obviously, myself and Kim were approaching this as first-time gamers, so first off, Kim, I have to ask, does it live up to the hype?
Well, oh my god. Well, I don't know. I mean, look, this was 2003, and I have to say I actually didn't know it was out in 2003. I thought it was out a little earlier than that, in like the 90s. But my mistake. To me, it doesn't live up to the hype. There are a lot of flaws to it, but there are charming features to it where I can see why people really like it. Like, full disclosure, I actually had the game a while back, and I started it up once, stopped for whatever reason, and then I actually started it up again last year, and I got to some parts that got really frustrating and stopped again. And then because of this, it motivated me to try and finish the game.
Okay. So, we're obviously going to get on to the frustrating parts in a bit, because this was certainly a key discussion back and forth between ourselves as we were doing the pre-production for the show. But, from just the character design, obviously we have a kick-ass female character in the form of Jade, who is not only a martial artist, she has her bow staff, but she's also a photojournalist as well, and a resourceful one at that. The character of Jade, how did you find her? Because obviously female heroines are sort of few and far between within the gaming world, and this is obviously a very male hero-dominated industry, really. So it's always refreshing to see a female lead.
I think it's important to say that Jade is very special, as with all of the characters or the majority of the characters and character design in Beyond Good and Evil. It's definitely the upside of this game and what would motivate anybody to keep playing it. Jade is different because she's not sexualized either. She's just a photojournalist, and that camera aspect also helps develop like the quest that you need to do of taking pictures of creatures, which kind of falls a little farther down as the game goes along, and the story seems to thicken a little. The plot thickens a little. I like Jade. I think that she's a really great character. I think she's a really great heroine, and she just has so many skills. It's very charming to watch her, and she's she has like her green lipstick, and then she's just really weird in some odd, bizarre way. The look that she has is very like everyday girl, like the girls who are kind of like tomboyish, and which I can relate to. While I'm not very much like that anymore, I am not like a girl. Like, I don't put on makeup a ton of it. I don't dress up every day. I'm very casual about these things. And if I was to envision someone going on like a dangerous mission to go hunt down, like, to sneak into the Alpha quarters and whatever and fight off like crazy characters and these guards and stuff, I would envision me being her. She's in like her sneakers and like some cargo pants, and she has a cool jacket, and then she's just wielding her bow staff in her back, and she has she's a very well-rounded character that's just really fun to play.
Oh, definitely. As you said already, she's designed very realistic. She's not designed in that sort of comic book sort of style where she looks like she's
Bayonetta.
Yeah, she looks like she's got a couple of Zeppelins strapped to her chest. It's not the case here. There's no, while she's obviously an attractive character, there's no sort of attempts to sexualize this character. And at the same time, I love the fact that this game is focuses on the exploration side, and it really drives that fact home by the fact that you can't go around just waving your staff around. It only lets you use the staff when it decides you're going to have a fight scene. The rest of the time you can only just basically avoid dangers or whatever. You have to find a way around them. So, or you can use your little disc launcher that you have on your wrist, which is probably the most cumbersome weapon that you have in the game, but it's continuously required to use it. And one of the main issues I have really is the fact that it uses the same control that you use for the camera, and it just felt very awkward because there's no give on it. You basically nudge the direction stick in like any direction, it will immediately lurch up or down. There's no sort of way to gingerly sort of move it down to give it any sort of accuracy at all.
But I think that this goes back to just the fact that this is a 2003 game. We had the same talk about the camera angles being a big issue, but for what it was at that time, like, that's why I don't blame camera angles. I don't blame even, like, the twitchiness of the controls or, like, the maneuvering of the camera and stuff. Just because this is 13 years ago. Back then, this is kind of like, I would say this was like the state-of-the-art game. I mean, Ubisoft came out with it, so it must be good, right? It must be, like, top of the line. At least I'd hope so. But I think that, like, one of the biggest issues has nothing to do even with, like, the weapons or anything, or, like, the characters, or even the story. I think before we go jump into the bad, maybe we stick with the story. I think that the story is progressed really well. Like, you go on certain quests, and you have to, like, go into different areas, and the map kind of opens up, and you have your little objectives on the side and your little menu, in your menu thing, which really gives you a lot of direction to where you need to go. So you never really get lost.
Oh yeah, it's an interesting world that the game is set within. As you've obviously got the city you can go and explore, such as areas such as like the pedestrian district. And there's characters you can interact with. You can explore, like, the islands. Like, there's an island called the Black Isle, which has got, like, an abandoned mine that you work your way through. So the areas that you travel to are all very different from each other. There's no feeling of repetition with each area you go to, whether you're in the factory or the slaughterhouse or you're in the moon, which is obviously where the finale takes place. There's always that variety, even though it can feel at the same time that you're sort of going through the same 7 villains each area you go into. You always encounter the same bad guys in each area.
Well, there's a lot of features on this game that are great. Like, just even the fact that you have your little hovercraft, and you have, like, you need to, like, repair it, and you can upgrade it, and you can do all these things, and it's at this, like, I think one of the funnest parts is going into MAMMAGO Garage. And that's like, you got these, like, Jamaican hippos or something. And are they hippos? I don't even know. I don't remember anymore.
Yeah, they're Jamaican rhinos, but why are rhinos Jamaican? I don't know who put those two things together. So, like, let's have a bunch of rhinos and give them, like, most stereotypical Jamaican accents possible.
But hey, you gotta say, it was pretty entertaining to go in there. And then, like, they have a lot. I mean, even the fact, like, they got, like, little fun times, like, you can go into the races, and you can go into Looter's Cavern, and they're, like, little fun segments that aren't exactly necessary to progress in the story, but they're a fun little way to kind of, like, get away from the heaviness of the story of where it's going.
I would actually disagree with you, because the game, while it's obviously designed as an open world game, at times it feels very much on rails, especially when it comes to the collection of the pearls, which is basically your currency.
Yeah.
The set, you can, as Jade Kim mentioned already, that you can do things such as like the smuggler caves. You can do like various races to earn pearls. You can also take photos of the various animals in the universe around you, so which gives you not only credits, but if you collect enough photos, then you can earn pearls that way as well. And you will hit sections within the game where MAMMAGO will want you to pay like 30 pearls to get the next upgrade to allow you to access the next area, so the boost for your ship, or to unlock the flight stabilizer so you can turn it into a spacecraft. And it felt that these are areas which are sort of put on the map as though they're like this side quest. You end up ultimately having to complete them just to get the required pearls to get to the next section. And if in that respect, it just felt very much on rails, even though it's been designed as an open world game. You're ultimately going to follow the same path as everyone else.
You know, I agree with you. I agree and I disagree. My statement was more towards like not regarding the pearls, but more just the act of the looter's cavern and those things being really fun. The pearls is a complete pain in the behind, okay? Like serious. Like, oh my god. Like, the last part is ridiculous. Like, the last upgrade to get that to upgrade your craft was like 50 pearls, and pretty much it was like so many hours just going back, retracing, going onto your reader and trying to figure out where everything is. And that is just such a pain, because it suddenly made these what was supposed to be side quests become such a cumbersome thing, which has got in the way of progressing in the story. I guess I'm particularly like more frustrated with it because of the fact that like we had already gone through some really frustrating parts at that point, and it just kind of gets in the way with the plot. And when you're like me at that moment where I finished, like, you know, like you're so close to recording time and you haven't finished the game, you're trying to power through it, and you get like hit with this. It's just so painful to do. And I just didn't understand. Like, the thing was that, you know, what really annoyed me was that, okay, well, yeah, look, this was the pearls. But then when I was collecting those pearls to do that upgrade, it was like, well, you have 35 pearls available in your area, in your map. So that means that I needed like, I think I needed like 20 or something at that point, or 24 or something at that point.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, that's going through the whole entire map. So why didn't you just tell me in advance I need to get all the pearls, and I would have just done all of it, you know, open up a walkthrough or something, and then just do all of the pearls and take all the pictures, and you'd be all done.
Yeah. The photograph element of the game is something I really enjoyed, and it brought back memories of Pokemon Snap. This idea where you're going around and every time you find a different creature, that this idea that some of them have to be stalked because if they're spooked, they run away. Others you just have to basically hunt them down. And it was kind of fun just to go around and try and collect photos of all these animals. And especially the fact that you can photograph your fellow human companions and they count as a photo. Which I thought was
your Homo sapiens species.
Which I thought was a really nice touch to it. There's also a game that you can play in the bar, which I perhaps may have wasted more credits trying to beat this morning, when we were just in the final section, where it's kind of like an air hockey game where you have to get all your pucks into the opponent's side, but it's just so kind of addictive and so frustrating at the same time, because this mole that you're basically playing against is like super good at the game, and there's like no learning curve to this game. It's like you either get it or you don't. So it's very easy to like suddenly see all your credits disappear that you perhaps should have spent on like health upgrades or something like that. But yeah, and I think this really kind of leads us on to one of the most frustrating aspects, and that's the stealth sections of this game. And unfortunately, to get some of the big Pell drops, you have to do some horrible stealth sections, as well as some of the levels have got some of the most brutal stealth sections I've seen for a very long time in a game.
They're not only brutal, they're really long. They're like non-stop. You know, like, you go through one section, stealth. You gotta go through it, and it's super unforgiving. These guards all of a sudden are ridiculous, and adding on to the crappy, like, camera angles, you're just like, I don't know when this guy is staring at me, and then sometimes, like, the camera blocks you, kind of, so you see, like, the top of his head, and then his visor with his eye, with a light coming out, which way he's looking at. Ugh.
Yeah, it's...
I'm sorry, I'm really frustrated.
Oh, yeah, and it doesn't really help the fact that you're facing these guards who have one weak spot, which is an oxygen tank on the back, but essentially the only way to get it is to do some, like, miracle shot to hit it, or to sneak up and kick them. And there was the amount of times during these sections, especially like in the slaughterhouse and the factory sections, where I felt like snapping my controller in two. I was so frustrated, and the fact that some smartass has gone, oh, this isn't obviously hard enough, so you have levels where if you're spotted, you're instantly killed by the laser that's floating around. And it's like, who comes up with these games? And it's so frustrating, the fact as well, you only have one difficulty level. So there's no way to make this easy if you suck at stealth games like I do.
Like that was one of the points I really wanted to talk about, was like the fact that there is no difficulty to choose from. This is pretty much the only way you can pass this level, is figure this puzzle out of how to maneuver around these stealth people and then these stealth guards, and even then, like, you can't even use your disc in most situations. In the stealth situations, especially with that laser thing floating on the top, once you use it, it's an instantaneous death. You have to start right back at the beginning, and there are no checkpoints. So it's kind of really frustrating, because there are, like, 3 story plots that are going on. Like, you know, you're going, and then you're like, you know, you go through that stealth part, you go to the next section, and then there's, like, some person that you overhear talking, like, 3 sentences, and you go to the next section, and then it's another stealth part, and it doesn't progress the story. All it does is sends you on this wild goose chase to take 3 pictures in the slaughterhouse, which are in, like, the 3 different wings, and then the whole slaughterhouse is just stealth. It's just stealth and stealth and stealth and stealth. And it's ridiculous. Like, thinking about it gets me angry, because that was the part which made me stop on the second time, and that was exactly where I picked up.
Oh, yeah. This game really loves its stealth sections. And I don't know why nobody ever talks about this. When they're raving about this game, no one ever says the fact that, oh, you're going to do endless stealth sections. They're like, oh, it's this immersive world and these fascinating stories and colourful characters and stuff. No one says that you will spend hour upon hour trying to beat stealth sections. And it was frustrating for myself, because we're obviously recording this, so we're streaming it through Twitch. And I'm thinking, whoever is watching this is going to think that I just am a complete lame ass in this game. The fact that they're tuning in, they're spending their evening or whatever. They think, oh, I'll just watch a little bit of Twitch, you know, we'll watch a bit of Beyond Good and Evil. No, we're just going to watch Elwood get killed over and over again trying to beat these sections. I mean, this is again why I'd never use a mic, because it would just be more profanity laced than a multiplayer session of GTA.
But you know that, like, on the note of stream, people do enjoy watching people get frustrated. That's the point of the mic sometimes, other than, like, meaningful commentary. Yeah. But I mean, we don't do mic for other reasons, because we need the footage. So I mean, like, the stealth part is, you know, there are different types of stealth in this game, and my main thing is that at the ending there's this chase scene, which I really, really love. It was like this chase sequence. It's super fun to play. Elwood had posted something on GameWar Facebook page about how it reminded us of Crash Bandicoot sequence. And I agree with that. That sequence was really good. And right before that, there was also a stealth part. And I make a point that there are good frustrations and bad frustrations in the stealth. Like, the part where you're in the slaughterhouse are really, really, really bad. Like, they're just constructed so poorly, and then they really push you to the limit of just impossibility. Like, it's unfair, and I really think it's not good. It's not good game design. But where we have the chase sequence right before that, it's more colorful in the sense where you're really feeling like you're doing stealth. Like, yeah, there's a lot of guards around and whatnot, but you have to literally sneak under pipes, and then you have to sneak behind guards, and then you need to climb on ledges, and then there's like little parts where you need to sneak past a window, but you need to time it perfectly, and that gives a little bit of change instead of just sneaking past behind a pipe, and then sneaking behind a tank, and then sneaking behind this guy, and then doing this, and it's so repetitive when you're in the slaughterhouse. So I don't know. I mean, I think that if you were talking about Michael Ansted, so you're saying that Michael Ansted made this game to be different, to break out of Rayman. Yeah. And I can see where he's breaking out of Rayman. Like, this is not at all Rayman. And being, like, a fan of Rayman, and I only played a few games, okay? But, you know, like, Rayman has its frustrating moments because it's a platformer. And it is ridiculous. Like, I don't know if he did Rayman Legends, but I played the whole Rayman Legends. And some of it is really, really, really annoying. Because it's super hard at certain parts and super about timing and all that. But, you know, this is like a whole different level of frustration. I can see the creativity in what he's trying to create, and the charm and the story and all that is so good. But then to just throw it all down into one large section, which is just a big component of stealth parts, which really, like, all of a sudden your game went from like a level 5 difficulty to a level 11 difficulty is really ridiculous. Like, I think that was a bad choice. But I feel that why people don't talk about it might be because the ending and whatnot makes it, and like the sum of its parts of good makes up for just that one part. Except I can't get over that part because that was a part which made me stop the game.
Yeah. So, would you say that when people are looking back on this, that it's going to be through sort of the rose-tinted glasses and nostalgia that a lot of these people are looking back at the game rather than actually remembering what it's like to play this game? But I know I'm certainly been guilty of looking back on certain games more fondly than I perhaps should have.
Well, everybody has a bit of nostalgia, I think, and nostalgia runs really, really deep in everyone, especially if you grew up with Beyond Good and Evil, if that was like an initiation game into what you were playing, right? I think that was one of the reasons why I always wanted to go back to Beyond Good and Evil, because I played it really a lot of years ago. Like, I think I started this game back in like maybe 2009, and that was quite a while ago, but I remembered the great parts of it, like the fun photography, these cute characters, all these fun creatures that he's created, and this world that is just so different, but also really dystopian. And that was the part I remembered, which made me want to go back to play it. But the shocking part was when I turned it on, and I remembered that I had played a second time, and I was at the stealth part, and I wanted to die, you know?
Yeah, I think, other than the stealth parts, the part that annoyed me is the fact that we obviously have this wonderful character of her humanoid boar uncle, Pey-J, and the fact that the game sets itself up like, oh, you and Pey-J are going to go around and you're going to solve puzzles, and you're going to have this back and forth banter between these two characters, and then they basically remove him from the game about a quarter of the way through, and you don't get him to the end of the game, and it was like so frustrating because he was like, I was really enjoying this character, and then he's like snatched away from yourself, and you're basically lumped with the soldier Double H, who basically just has a go at you if you hit him at all, or if you run off without him, he has a go at you. And his only real purpose is to basically occasionally attack someone with his hammer or to run through security doors.
Well, you know, I do like Pey-J. I think that he's a really good character, and he was really, really fun, just like a ton of them. But you know, I think that Double H has his charm as well. I mean, he was kind of like the comedic relief in many parts. I didn't really enjoy the fact that every time he jumped out of the hovercraft, he'd like crash into us. It was kind of funny. Like when it first happened, I was like, "What?"
Yeah, some great
and then
animation.
it's like, and then I mean, I swear, like his like fights where you tell him to tell him to do something. He's like he does 10-4 or something like that, right? He yells that, and then at the end of like 3 hours of gaming, my brain was just engraved with him screaming that.
While the stealth section certainly sucked in this game, as you mentioned, Ray, that chase scene that we have on the roof, which is like really reminiscent of Crash Bandicoot, was a lot of fun. And when you actually get to the moon, and I think it's because it's such a change of pace from what you've had to do previously, we have the two sort of end boss fight scene. One is kind of like a Lilac Wars shoot 'em up sort of sequence, and the final one is probably one of the most challenging boss fights I've had since the first Gears of War, where you basically have, for the final part, you have about half a second to hit the actual boss before he disappears or batters you. So, it's the beginning of the game's good, and the end of the game's good. It's just that tricky middle section where it's just horrible, horrible stealth sections that made me stop me from really loving this game more than I did. But I mean, for yourself, Kim, we obviously know Beyond Good and Evil 2 is in production at the moment. Having played this first game, is there enough there for you to want to come back and do a second game?
Surprisingly, yes. Just because of the fact that we are now 2016. Our gaming standards are much higher. And I think that a lot of the issues that I had with camera angles and even just a better flow in the stealth, if they actually implement that again, or just the animation and the story, I really feel like they have something more to offer. And, you know, I think there's a creativity here that definitely should be revived. I just hope that, you know, it's not going to be because now we have this high gaming standard. It's like a ticket to increase the level even more. You know, if anybody listens to this or has any contact with the developers of this, please pass on the word that multiple difficulty choices is something I'd like to see. It would be beneficial, I think, for the game.
Yeah. Also, don't make the middle of your game all stealth sections. Give us some variety. Yeah, if I wanted to play a stealth game, I would buy a stealth game. I wouldn't buy an adventure
Metal
game.
Gear. we can do enough of that with Metal Gear. We don't need to do this.
But even Metal Gear is more forgiving than this game is when it comes to stealth. And you wouldn't expect a game with such cartoonish visuals to be as brutal with its stealth sections as it has here. You would have thought it would be a little more laid back, a little more fun. But no, this is full on serious with its stealth sections.
Yeah, what would you give it as a score?
I've been going back and forth on this all week, and I don't like to do 0.5s on this score. I'm determined to keep our scoring as clean as possible. So I'm going to give this 3 out of 5. There's certain elements I really liked. I like the design. I like many of the sub levels that you go on, the exploration sort of elements. And I wish that there was more to explore in this game, because it just feels very enclosed, despite it being an open world game. Certainly those stealth levels, they detract so much in this game, and it stops me wanting to go back and play it again, because I know I'm going to have to go back and do those sections again. So I think for myself it's a solid 3. There's plenty to enjoy here, but yeah, if you just got to really prepare yourself to go through the ringer with those stealth sections. But what about yourself, Kim?
I'm right along with you for exactly the same reasons. Like, there's a lot of charm. I really, really think that, like, I won't go back to this game. I flat out forget it. Like, it's done. It's done. It's on the shelf. It's gonna stay there for a while. Maybe if I ever feel nostalgic enough and forget about the stealth sections, I go back in to get frustrated again. But like I can't give it less than 3.
Okay.
I think that would be, you know, it's really for me was a toss up between a 2.5 and a 3 at this point. I won't go higher than a 3. And I think that it deserves it just because of the story it's created and the world it's created and the characters that it's given us. I really, really like Jade. I think that she's an amazing heroine, and I love to see her be able to have more. And that's one of the reasons why I do want to see Beyond Good and Evil 2. And I'm sure that at that point when it comes out, if it's not going to cost us an arm and a leg, we're going to play through that on this podcast as well. Like, review it on this podcast as well.
Also, if they want to send us a copy, that's always very, very persuasive of what we will cover on the show.
We never know. We don't know when it's going to come out at this point, right? I mean, it's just plans, right? And then the developer still has to finish up some game or something before he's going to start any work on it. So It's really just plans at this point. You don't even know if it's actually going to happen.
No, I mean, we've seen some design sketches from the game, and basically it just gives us a clear-looking model of what we have already. There's no sort of big reveals that have been given to us at the moment, but it's intriguing, and certainly the end of the game, if you stay till after the credits, we get a little bit of a stinger where it seems to be setting up a sequel. So whether it's going to go off in a different plot or pick up from where that stinger leaves us in the end credits, I'm not too sure, and I'm kind of keeping an eye on it just to see where it goes. I'm interested to see it. Just obviously because I like these characters, and I would like to go on another adventure with them. Just perhaps not a so stealthy one.
So to all our viewers and listeners, like, keep an eye on our Facebook. Facebook and Twitter. We're probably going to put more updates as we see them being released. And I guess this about wraps up this episode. Thanks so much for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, please like, share, subscribe, and definitely comment. We'd love to hear your feedback and recommendations. Head over to our home base, thatmomentin.com, to read more gaming reviews and news bits. To get gaming news and releases every single day, follow us on Twitter and like us on Facebook at GameWarp Podcast. To catch our episode on the go, you can find us on SoundCloud, iTunes, Podomatic, and Satchel. Thanks so much again, and we'll see you in the next episode. Bye!